everyone, welcome back. My name's Dustin Grace, and today we're finally going to do a game discussion for this game right here, Bloodborne, brought to us by From Software, exclusively on the PS4. I just finished this game like 4 or 5 days ago. Been super busy with work, so just haven't found the time to film the video. Finally getting around to it now. Plus, I wanted to let the game kind of marinate a little bit because I've been hitting these Souls games, which I consider Bloodborne to be part of the Souls series, even though it doesn't have the word Souls in the name. It shares enough of the mechanics to be sort of a spiritual successor, if not, a direct sequel like, Dark Souls 2 or something like that. But I wanted to kind of let it marinate in my brain for a little bit because it's been a big event. Because if you know, I hated these games about a year ago. I hated Dark Souls 2 and got rid of it and swore to never play anything from Software again, which is kind of stupid because I have a bunch of From Software games here, but specifically anything in the Souls series. And then I gave it another shot, came back to it, and really found myself enjoying it. However, Bloodborne is kind of a mixed bag for me. On the one hand, I enjoy a lot of what's here, but on the other hand, compared to Dark Souls 1 and 2, this one feels rushed and kind of half-baked. And I don't know. I'm sure a bunch of people are going to disagree with me on that, although I've watched a few videos and people do generally rank this one kind of below Dark Souls, and then it kind of drops off from there. But it's entirely the same as the Souls series, but they've tweaked enough things that it is a bit different. And of course, here I am, I'm late to the party. There's nothing really I'm going to add to what has already been said about this game except my own 2 cents. So if you're here for that, fantastic. If you're here for some insight on Bloodborne that no one else has done, you're not going to get that here. But you're going to get my experience with it and sort of comparing it to the Souls series in general. And we'll go from there. But anyway, Bloodborne. Storyline-wise, much like the other games in the Souls series, this game has a very vague storyline. It's got more cutscenes and interactions than the other Souls games, but much like them, you have to infer from notes you find laying around, from what the NPCs tell you, from just seeing the environments, as to what has happened to this city of Yharnam that you find yourself in. You wake up in this town and kind of sign this contract to be a hunter for this guy, and through various reasons, your character, you're there to sort of get a little bit of this blood healing that the town is famous for. However, when you get there, the town is batshit insane. The blood healing has caused this plague, and you are contracted as a hunter to go deal with these beasts that have invaded the town. And from there, you get the town's history and what's happened with the blood healing and things like that. And I've probably butchered that storyline, but these games do not tell you an A-B narrative. It kind of drops you in. It reminds me a lot of Super Metroid back in the day, how a lot of the storyline was told up front, and then you got the rest of the storyline in that game not through cutscenes, but just through interactions with the environment and sort of inferring from the background. So it kind of does take me back to playing Super Metroid over and over and over again, which I really kind of want to play Super Metroid again sometime. I might do that sometime this year. But, depending on what fragments of the story you find and what optional areas you go into, you might miss huge portions of the story. So unless you get a guide to sort of walk you through everything, or if you're like me and you just play the games through and then piece together the lore afterwards using a wiki, you might not see the entire storyline. So that kind of is an incentive to go back and play the game again, so you can get more stuff and more involved in the world. However, I found myself not really being drawn in to the storyline in the world of Bloodborne as much as I was as the Souls. Now, that might be because I prefer like that medieval high fantasy setting of the Souls series as to this. Although I do really like the very Lovecraftian gothic horror aspects of the storyline. I love wearing a highwayman jacket and running around in the game like it's Brotherhood of the Wolf. But from there, I found myself just not as interested in this world for some reason. And it might have something to do when we get into the graphics as much as I was in the Souls game. In fact, I think I enjoy my time with Dark Souls and Dark Souls 2 more than I enjoyed my time with Bloodborne. I don't know what it is. It's a combination of things, but I feel like those are two better games. And Bloodborne, whether it be just because this is the first game that they've done on the new hardware, and maybe it was a little bit rushed and under the gun because Sony was in control of it and not Bandai Namco as usual. Or I guess in Japan, actually, From Software just publishes it themselves. So, you know, maybe because they were in collaboration with Sony for this one, Sony kind of pushed them to release it because there's a certain things in the gameplay that one thing in particular I didn't even bother with, but a lot of people have complained about. But while we're talking about gameplay, let's go ahead and get into it. If you've played a Souls game, you kind of know what to expect from this game. The same sort of challenging combat. However, Bloodborne simplifies it, streamlines it, and makes it more aggressive. It took me a long time to get over, because in the Souls games, you have to play very defensively with a shield and kind of wait for your moment. In Bloodborne, you have to make your moment, and there are no shields. Instead of a shield, you have a gun, which can be used to parry enemies and stagger them. And the only other thing you have is a dodge. And really, it's the dodge that's the most important thing. I got to a certain point where I wasn't even really using my gun anymore. In fact, I never mastered it. And in the Souls games, I never really mastered parrying either. It was something that I just never mastered. And people told me I was going to have a hard time with Bloodborne if I didn't master parrying, but I still got through it. So I don't know, maybe just dodging and attacking. It's a little harder, but, you know, you can do it that way. But other than that, it's pretty much the exact same game. You fight and kill enemies. They give you, instead of souls in this game, it's blood echoes. And you carry those with you until you die. And if you die, you have to find your blood echo drop and get them back. Or if you die before you get them back, you lose everything. So it's really... It's taking the Souls formula and just making it more aggressive and more action-packed. So it's hard to say if a new player would like this game more. I know my friend Ernie, who has played some Dark Souls games, he kind of went into this, I guess, a little bit blind, because he's played a couple of the Souls games but never really to great length. And he was really enjoying his time with this one until he got stuck, and then he went on to something else. But, you know, it's hard to say if this would be a good one for new people to play or not. I don't know. I still think playing Demon Souls as a royalty is probably the best way to go out of playing all the games. But that's just me. Because I didn't really think there was an easy mode character in Bloodborne. I played, what was I, a veteran? War veteran or whatever they called it in that. So he's more of a melee character. And I got along fine except for a couple places where I got stuck for a while. But I didn't even mess with magic in this one. I just played straight melee. So that kind of shows you my progression in the game, from going from a strictly magic character in Demon Souls to a pyromancer in Dark Souls. So I played a little bit more melee in Dark Souls. And then Dark Souls 2, I played mainly a melee character with, I found a pyromancy flame and leveled it up and used pyromancy just here and there. But eventually that got really, the pyromancy in that game wasn't as useful as it was in Dark Souls 1. So I mainly relied on bows and arrows and swords. and then to Bloodborne with strictly melee. So that was kind of cool. Started out as sort of a strength build with my axe, but then switched over to skill when I got Ludwig's sword, which from everyone I've seen, everyone uses that Ludwig's holy sword, so that must be like one of the best weapons in the game. So, but yeah, what else? What else? Oh, the big thing in the gameplay, and it's part of the reason why I'm not as crazy about this game. This game feels really short. It feels really short compared to Dark Souls 2 especially, and Dark Souls 1. And that's mainly because, I don't know, I mean, you're stuck in one town, just the city of Yharnam and a few outlying areas, and that's really much it. And, you know, Yharnam kind of gets very samey as you're wandering through it. Everything starts to look very similar and very the same, and there's not a lot of variety in the environments. Except for one place you go to, which is Canehurst Castle, which finally in these games I see some goddamn snow. I got so sick of seeing lava and fire in the previous Souls games that to see that snow and to see it kind of slowly fall on you was really something awesome. I really hope they keep that kind of variety in Dark Souls 3, which is going to come out sometime next, or early spring, maybe early winter next year. Early 2016, that's all we know. But other than that, the variety in the areas you explore, the variety in the enemies you face, it just felt very light compared to the Souls series. And kind of palette swappy in a way. Like if you've played old school 16-bit, 8-bit RPGs, you know all about palette swaps. If you've played the Mortal Kombat games and you like the ninjas, you know, back in the day, you know all about palette swaps. And it felt like a lot of the enemies in Bloodborne were kind of palette swaps, especially when you start getting to ones where it's in the nightmare area and they just start swapping enemies' heads. So you'll have like one of the bird enemies with a wolf head and one of the wolves with a bird head. You know, it's just kind of, I mean, it makes sense for the area that you're in, but also it kind of reeks of like last minute, like what do we do? I don't know, switch the heads. That's fine. It'll work. I don't know. It kind of does feel like a very, 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 very short game. Like they were rushed to put it out. And then in order to sort of pad the game out, they created these things called chalice dungeons, which I've heard nothing but complaints about. They're boring, they're tedious and frustrating, and they're procedurally generated, and it's just, compared to the level design in the game, which the level design, how they plot out the levels, the areas, are really cool. A lot of secret entrances and shortcuts and things like that. It's just the variety of the environments you're looking at is kind of dropped down. But compared to the level design of the levels, I guess the chalice dungeons are just really boring. I did not touch the chalice dungeons at all because I was almost ready to shelve this game. I was getting kind of, I don't want to say fed up, but the fatigue from playing all 4 of these games in a row was really starting to set in. And then I looked at a guide and saw how close I was to the end. I just pushed myself to the end. I have no interest in going back and doing the chalice dungeons in this game. I have zero interest, which means I'll probably never platinum this game, which I'm not a big platinum, you know, gamer score type person anyway. If I get a trophy, that's fine. If there's an easy one to get, that's fine, but I'm not going to like play this game 8 or 9 times to platinum the game. That's just not the type of gamer I am. But yeah, so I mean, it's short, but the stuff that's there is good. It's still a good game. It's a really good game. It's just compared to Dark Souls 1 and Dark Souls 2, it feels a little half-baked. The combat's good, the exploration's good. It just, it never adds up to be more, I don't know. It's just everything when it adds up, you know, you add up the good combat, the impressive environment. I mean, the graphics are really good. You add everything up that you like about the game, you just feel like there should still be more. It's hard to describe. Audio-wise, this game is really good. The like the Souls games, the characters have a bit of somberness to them, but in this game, they're a bit more crazy, a bit more frenzied when you interact with the NPCs. And there's a lot of NPCs to interact with, from the actual people that have names and you get to talk to just going up to a random door that has a lantern outside and knocking on it, and then you'll just hear like a town person kind of going crazy behind the door. A lot of people to talk to. The music, there's actually a lot more music in Bloodborne than there is in the Dark Souls games. The Dark Souls is very environment-specific atmospherics, whereas this one had a bit more... like, there's actually whole areas of the game that when you were wandering around exploring, music was playing in the background. And that was kind of nice, because when the music does play in these games, I actually really do enjoy the music. There was a lot of female vocaling. Vocaling, is that a word? A lot of female vocals in this game, and I was really hoping when the credits rolled, I saw Emmy Evans' voice, or her voice. I saw her voice. I saw her name in the credits, because it kind of sounded like her. And she did do some vocal work for the soundtrack on Dark Souls 2. So it kind of made me wonder, but I never saw her name on the soundtrack, or on the credits. But there's still hope. Nier 2 was announced, so and she's on Drakengard 3, so I think that's a good sign that Emmy Evans will be back for another Nier soundtrack, because she really made that soundtrack. She was a whole other character in that game. But we're not talking about Nier. We're talking about Bloodborne. And I really actually enjoyed the music to this game. Graphically, this game is gorgeous. I was really worried about it because it seemed like all the screenshots I saw of the game was set at night, and I figured this is going to be like Demon Souls, and it was going to be so dark that you never really noticed any of the grandeur of the game. But there's a lot of really beautiful blue skies, like deep blue skies, not like bright blue skies like you would have in the daytime, but like an evening blue sky, purple skiys, you know. Just a lot of crazy colors and crazy lighting in this game, because it is dark, and there's lamps and you carry around a torch and things like that. Just a really great looking game. I just wish there was more variety in the environments and the places you go. But that's pretty much it for Bloodborne. I had a good time with it. You know, there's a lot of YouTubers that I follow. A couple of them have kind of posted their tentative game of the years. And I really expected, as much as they talk about the Souls series, I really expected this to be at the top of their list. But after playing it, I kind of understand why this has gotten knocked down a little bit. Because while it is still a very excellent game, it doesn't fully live up to the hype. Especially for me, because being new to the Souls series, and being new to actually enjoying it, you know, you play Dark Souls and you're like, oh man, this is so good, you know, and then you play Dark Souls 2, and like for me, I actually enjoyed Dark Souls 2 a little bit more, which is kind of crazy because it was the game that broke me a year ago and made me go crazy. So that's really funny. So then when I went to Bloodborne, I was like, oh, this is going to be infinitely better, because, you know, they could just take that, refine it, and go on. But for some reason, it doesn't add up to the sum of its parts. And I don't know what that is. Maybe when they release the add-on, the game will feel more complete. I don't know. I don't know what it is about Bloodborne that is keeping me from saying it's like the best game out right now. But on the PS4, I would say pick up Dark Souls 2: Scholar of the First Sin, and then pick up Bloodborne. But that's me. Some other people would tell you to pick up Bloodborne. But either way, you should play Bloodborne. There's enough here that it's really good. I think it just didn't live up to the insane amount of hype for me. Which is why when they announced Dark Souls 3, I got hyped, of course. I was like, oh yeah, finally. Which, of course, it was leaked and it wasn't that great of a surprise. But I'm going to keep that hype in check. I'm sure Dark Souls 3 will be great. But I'm going to keep that hype in check. And I'm going to keep the hype in check about a lot of things. I'm going to keep the hype in check about Final Fantasy VII Remake. Even though I don't see any reason why that'd be bad. Some people do, but I don't really see a reason why it'd be bad. Going to keep a hype in check about Nier because it's way too early to really think about Nier. But a lot of great things were announced at E3. I think we're going to do a sort of a quick episode of the podcast with our thoughts on things. If you know the three of us, our opinions on things shouldn't be any big surprise. Hint, hint, Chance loves Doom. But I think we're going to try to do that if we can find the time to record. But yeah, it feels good to have these Souls games done. It feels good to have them under my belt, have them on the shelf to look at and say, haha, you guys made me feel like an idiot a year ago, and now I've beat all four of you, and a fifth one to come. So right now I'm going back to Dragon Quest VII. I'm going to finish that up, maybe, because it's a massive game and I want to experience as many of the jobs as I can. So it's going to take me a while. I'm at like almost 60 hours on it right now, and not really close to the end. So it's a long game. It's over, I mean, it's easily over 100 hours if you do a lot of grinding and leveling, which you kind of have to do. 60 hours in, I'm only at level 29, my main character. So there you go. I'm going to try to work on Persona Q. However, Persona Q is really not grabbing me. With Persona 3 and Persona 4, throwing them together, you think there'd be a great storyline here, but there's just next to no plot, and it's just them bantering, and I'm just like, ugh. So, I don't know, the dungeon exploring's nice, but, I don't know, it's just not grabbing me. And then after that, I had a plan after that. And now I don't remember what it was. I was going to throw in Eco and maybe just Eco, and then play Shadow of the Colossus later to get hyped up for The Last Guardian, because I've played both of those games, but I never finished them. So, and then after that, I think I was going to pick out like a group of 5 or 6 games and throw them up on the AGP page and let you guys decide what the next game I play is, because after Eco, I got some ideas of things I want to play, but I don't know what I actually want to play. So maybe I'll leave it in your guys' hands, and then you guys can completely troll me and make me play something horrible. Wouldn't that be fun? But anyway, that is it. Bloodborne. I don't know. Let me think. Yeah, it's one of the few exclusives right now for the PS4, and definitely one of the best. Is it a system seller? Sure. I mean, it is a really friggin' good game. However, I think, you know, like, I don't know, the Final Fantasy VII Remake, even though that's probably going to be like 5 years down the road, who knows when that's actually going to come out. That's kind of, that trailer, that teaser, when Barrett and Cloud walk past the camera, I'm not going to lie, I got a little choked up. And Final Fantasy VII isn't even one of my favorite Final Fantasies. I think it's a little overrated in terms of its people praising it and nostalgia and things like that. But I do like the characters and like the storyline. And I need to beat the original PlayStation game. So maybe I'll throw that in sometime this year too. But goddamn, Fall and Holiday is packed. I don't know how I'm going to play all those games. So anyway, that is it for Bloodborne. Thumbs up, but it's not as high up as Dark Souls 1 and 2. But I do like it more than Demon's Souls, so I will give it that. So, anyway, that is it. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Take care, and I'll see you next time.